So, Chicago, what's happening? Well, as it stands right now, there are protesters right now who are standing up against ICE. Protesters are already showing up at Broadview, Illinois, which is where the immigration detention facility is at. And they are blocking ICE vehicles from leaving the facility, to which I have to say to these protesters, good job, but I've seen this before, and you are going to be gravely disappointed in finding out that there's a way in which they could circumvent around you. Now, many of you might be wondering, well, gee, Kit, what do you mean? Because you spoke about this on the Jimmy Dore show, and I want to be very clear how I was conducting myself on Jimmy's show. I think the protesters are lackluster. I thought the Labor Day protests and the Labor Day movements that were there on Labor Day protesting against Donald Trump were an absolute weak sauce. They had no energy. They had no enthusiasm. And I really doubt their tenacity, courage, or engagement into really doing a long-term, quote-unquote, resistance against Donald Trump. I've seen this stuff before. I've seen people talk big before. And honestly, no, they ain't going to do anything. Now, what do I mean by this? First, let me go ahead and pull up this segment here. Now, on paper, this looks great, but I got the T-shirt in 2028. In 2018. Haha, I said 2028. In 2018. I'll explain why.
Hey, Chicago, many of you saw that I got arrested blocking a van outside of the ICE processing facility in Broadview, Illinois, a Chicago suburb located at 1930 Beach Street in Broadview, Illinois this past week. This morning, we had a follow-up action where a number of protesters blocked entrance into the ICE facility. There were so many people that ICE turned around and the police refused to arrest those protesters. This action was scheduled to end at 9 a.m. this morning. It is Friday, September 5th. But now that we know that that works, now that we know that ICE is running scared, they do not want you here. They are located here because it is inconvenient for people from the Chicagoland area to get out here. And because the village of Broadview has 7,900 people, vast majority of them are non-white. ICE is hiding out in this community. They've run out of Chicago. They're running scared here too. We are going to be here past night. It's now 10 a.m. We are going to be here as long as we can be, because now that we know that this works, what's going to stop us? So come on down, come with friends, and hope to see you there. If you can't make it, share. I'll be here. ICE, get the fuck out.
Look, here's the thing. Hassan, you're right. It should be applauded. You're absolutely correct. And everyone else, yes, I do agree. But the thing is long-term consistency. I want to pull up something from 7 years ago. July 9th, 2018. Why is that date important? Well, that's because myself and Daniel Lupker, Hardlands Media, were on the ground at the Gary Chicago International Airport. The deportations before sanctuary cities became a thing. I've seen this before. Just because they detailed ICE or turned ICE around, no. This happened before. Hang on, folks. The story is not pretty. And it won't be pretty.
We have seen the buses. We have seen the human beings shackled and forced onto the planes. Mothers and fathers separated from their children. The city of Gary claims they have nothing to do with these deportations, yet they have protected ICE with large numbers of Gary SWAT officers, sheriff's deputies, and state police, and have forced demonstrators into a gated parking lot surrounded by armed police. The Gary Jet Center has built 3 new buildings with hangars.
And yes, that's the Hardlands Media logo right there. Oh, 2018. Well, what an innocent year.
It's about to open a customs building. Up until now, O'Hare has handled international deportations, but it seems that Gary is doubling down on working with ICE to separate families with racist deportation.
We need to do something. We need to fight. We need to stop this deportation, this criminalization of immigrants in this country. Every day there's something on the news that just makes me so angry, and we need to stop this.
And it's going to get worse, my friends. It's going to get worse before it gets better. So we need to hold the line. We are the last line of defense.
This fight is a long-term fight that we all have to be in it together.
Everyone, this is not a Democratic fight or a Republican fight. It's a moral issue. It's a moral fight. Remember, the previous president, Barack Obama, was dubbed the deporter in chief. So it's not a right wing, it's not a left wing, it's a human fight. It's a fight for humanity.
Okay, yes, this is young Kit Cabello, but let me explain. This was at the Gary Chicago International Airport. The protesters were successful in turning around not one, but 3 buses filled with migrants who were going to be deported. Many of these migrants were nonviolent. Many of these migrants were harmless. No criminal record. Yet they would be chained and have to crawl up the steps to the airplanes. Those 3 buses were turned around and drove through Chicago to O'Hare Airport. So in the previous video that I showed of that young woman who was claiming that they were turning ICE around, you do realize that there's other facilities there. If there's truly going to be a resistance, it's got to be continuous, ongoing. You're declaring a siege, you're declaring a resistance to these activists and organizers. All eyes are going to be on Chicago. Now, Hardlands Media, we're going to be focusing on this story, and we're going to keep on pushing it for as long as we can, but you got it here first. And I say this as someone who's on the left, technically politically homeless. And I've been given this warning a long time that Chicago was always going to be a target center, that Chicago was going to be a battleground city. I gave this warning. Very few people listened. But everything that has been happening has set in motion. All eyes are on this city.
Been going on for years, probably, right since before Donald Trump became president. But it's become a much larger operation since being in charge, right? It's like the numbers of deportees getting out of this airport has increased, probably double, threefold.
And this airport deports for all of Indiana, all of Illinois, all of Wisconsin and Kentucky here.
Usually there's a couple of buses, 2 or 3. It's really sad when you see it because it's all blocked out. I mean, the windows are all blocked out and everything. They, of course, have police escort. Then when they bring them to the planes, it's like they're shackled, and then the plane windows are blocked out too. And it's really, really sad.
My sister was part of one of deported from Chicago airport, actually. She was sent back. She was only here to visit for 1 week, and she was sent back just because of the executive order that went into effect while she was on the plane.
We are here every Friday, right? Today was a much larger crowd and quite effective because we actually, we stopped the plane. Well, not directly, but they suspended the flight today.
We're going to have to invade the politics, and we're going to have to also get our feet in the street and put our bodies on the line, and that's the main way that we're going to be able to overcome this. And in between elections, elections matter, but the fact is that we need to invade those elections, not just pick the lesser of 2 evils.
Oh yes, the old school outro for Hardlands. So yes, unfortunately, it's looking like everything that we've covered from 2018 is repeating itself now in 2025. Governor J.B. Pritzker also went on to label ICE and ICE as a very controversial and racist organization. However, Governor J.B. Pritzker, all what you and Mayor Brandon Johnson has stated, not only when Hardlands Media covered it, but when Jimmy Dore had me on as a guest too, all what you are doing is promising legalities, like you're promising lawfare. You're not doing any kind of resistance. We're not seeing any kind of real physical action. We're seeing nothing but talk, which means to everyone that's hoping that Pritzker and Mayor Brandon Johnson are going to be in the streets walking with you, no, No, they're not going to do that. If they do, that's surprising. I would be surprised if they did that. Remember, ICE came to Chicago in February of 2025. The infamous Dr. Phil, how do you know me?
It appears that they are amassing the ICE officers at the Great Lakes Naval Base, along with some military vehicles. It's been reported that there are about 300 of those officers that are planning on coming in and doing what they did in Los Angeles, which is terrorize the neighborhoods and cause mayhem. They're hoping in the end, their plan is to cause enough mayhem on the ground that they'll have to call in troops to protect the ICE officials. So that's what their aim is. It's not actually to effectuate removal of violent criminals. So, what they're doing is dangerous.
So I was asked what should be done, what could be done. We gave the suggestion, a few years ago in regards towards building a true political resistance movement, and it should have been separated from the Democrats. But obviously what needs to be done right now is, again, for anyone that is a nonviolent offender, obviously they need to know their rights. I think if there was to be any kind of true pushback right now towards the National Guard or ICE being deployed into the city, make sure you have your documents and paperwork set in motion. I don't see any of these activist groups or organizations preventing the buses or the convoys from coming on through and detaining people. The CPD has already made it clear that they will not prevent ICE or the National Guard from conducting their job. Now, whether the National Guard is set in here to be deployed is a whole other question. But what needs to be done? What should be done? As of right now, notes need to be taken for other cities. Chicago is going to be a testing site to how far Trump can use his executive powers to enact his own laws and, quote unquote, occupying a city. Now, Chicago might be a whole other different animal altogether, because there's been talks and reports about potentially federal forces, the National Guard, being deployed in here longer than a month. So anyone that's in Baltimore or Philadelphia or in Los Angeles, wherever, New York City, take the notes and see where the failings of Chicago's resistance and its politicians came through. Where we are the don't make the same mistake we did. That's what needs to happen. I don't think there's any reversing anything that's going to be happening in Chicago. The Great Lakes Naval Facility is already preparing for 200 federal ICE agents to be there, and there's also talk about more deployment of National Guard forces coming into the city. It's too late. It is far too late, and I don't see any alderman or Illinois politician doing the necessary steps to actually truly be a resistance leader or holding a line. If it does happen, it'll be a sight to see.
What they're doing is un-American. And the idea that you're going to call military troops in to an American city, you can't fathom it. You couldn't make this up, but here it is. And the question, I think, for all of us is, are we going to stand up and let it and push back, or are we just going to let it happen? And at least in Chicago, I think there's a common belief that I think people will protest peacefully. I've encouraged people to get out their iPhones and their Android devices and film everything they see from the ICE officials. And then we've made sure that people on the streets know their rights. I'm talking about the people who are being gone after just because of the color of their skin. They're being targeted by ICE, or whether they've got an accent when they speak. And some of them are American citizens. Some of them are people who've been here for decades, raising families, holding down jobs, paying taxes. These are good people, and they're under attack by ICE and maybe soon by military troops.
All right, but moving on forward, I do want to pull up something else here too, because this is what's happening in Chicago. This actually was done last night or in the evening, because I actually saw this firsthand of the fences being put around the federal buildings.
This is at the federal building in Chicago. They're starting to put up the fences. Pretty soon we know what's going to happen. ICE and National Guard going to step in. It's crazy this happening. I've never seen this before.
Guys, I'm on the ground at the Federal Plaza, where you can see workers setting up this barricade here. ahead of these demonstrations that are expected in front of the Federal Plaza here in Chicago. Guys,
Yes, that's the infamous crane.
I'm going to keep you updated as this unfolds.
So that's just one example of what's happening here in Chicago. But I do want to pull up our mayor because everyone's then asking, Kit, what about your mayor? Well, he's mayor, one-term mayor. I mean, there's at this point, Brandon Johnson coming out as a leading political figure. No, he's mayor 6.6%. He's not popular. Nobody likes him. Nobody wants to be associated with him. All right. He's the ugly duckling. It's over. It's over for Brandon.
Look, the bottom line is this president is not serious about driving violence down across America, because if he were, he would be talking to mayors like myself and asking us what's working. There's a lot of work.
Mayor, nothing is working. I hate to break this to everyone who might hold out hope for Brandon Johnson. The city is $1.1 billion in the hole. I mean, even Lightfoot never messed up this bad. And Lightfoot is not the greatest example of a good Chicago leader. I mean, Lightfoot is somebody you don't want to be associated with. The fact that you're more hated than her, that's an achievement. That's a miracle. Like, how did you do that?
Work to be done. But look, I wake up on the west side of Chicago. I go to bed on the west side of Chicago, a community that has been disinvested in historically, and we have certainly had our challenges. Every time someone gets harmed by violence, we're talking about my neighbors, it breaks my heart, but it also reaffirms my resolve to ensure that we make the necessary investments to drive violence down. This president is trampling on our Constitution. He's behaving in a way that is undermining our democracy, and he's trying to get us to submit our humanity to his will. That's not what we're going to do in the city of Chicago. We're going to stand up for working people, make the necessary investments, hold the people accountable who are causing harm. But we need this president to actually show up with real investments. If he were serious, why did he cut 30% of the budget of ATF? 1,465 Americans who have been serving in these capacities got cut from his budget. For what? To militarize ICE, his own private security entity that causes harm and terror against communities. This president is reprehensible, his behavior at this moment. And that's why we're standing firm in the city of Chicago to protect people, to stand up for people, and then to invest in people. That's how we're building the safest, most affordable big city in America.
And yet Chicagoans are leaving the city en masse. Schools are still being shut down. Property taxes are rising up. Small businesses are being shut down. When the DNC convention came here to Chicago, homeless encampments were moved away from the United Center just so it could look all cat fancy and pretty for all the Democrat politicians flying in. I mean, everything that Mayor Brandon Johnson is accusing Donald Trump of in regards to being neglectful, his administration has done so tenfold. It's the pot calling the kettle black. There's nothing to really be enthusiastic about Mayor Brandon Johnson or his bold claims of resisting or asking Trump what would work. Or what does he want us to do? Or how can we show you how the city's doing great? Mayor Brandon Johnson, under your administration, this city has seen dark times, bleak times, and every institution, every group in this city wants you gone. All right, even Lightfoot, when it was time for the election cycle of 2023, at least she had an attempt. There was a window of possibility of her getting reelected. I don't see how you can get reelected. I don't see how a mayor whose entire policy has caused every single activist group and even union groups. I mean, right now they're kind of looking at you for leadership, but sooner or later people's brain cells are going to be activated again once the Trump derangement syndrome passes and they realize, oh yeah, this is Mayor Brandon Johnson. Nothing to expect. Nothing to be inspired by. ICE agents are already being deployed to the Great Lakes Naval Facility. FBI agents will be coming into Chicago. Now, there is talk about the National Guard coming into the city. When that deployment does happen, I will definitely be sure to do a quick live stream to inform all of you that, yes, this is an actual thing that's going down. To which I will have to say again, no matter how many times it falls upon deaf ears, If Trump really wants to end the corruption in Chicago, the criminality, it's not the gangbanger on the street. It's not some sort of clubhouse where the mob guys are hanging out at or any cartel groups. It's in City Hall. You go there if you got the nerve. All those fences being put around the federal building, all the state and city buildings, oh, that's fine. But you bring that heat and fury to City Hall. That's where the criminals are at. That's where the bad guys are at. I understand that there are people saying, well, what can be done? What can be done? What can be done? To those who live in other major metropolitan cities, look at the failures of our leaders here in Chicago. Look at the failures of the quote-unquote activist groups here. Learn from their mistakes. Organize and mobilize. See where the failures have happened, and perhaps maybe, I don't know, there could actually be pushback against Trump if that's what people want to do. But I think it's too late for Chicago. I fear that this is going to happen. And I hope that it just doesn't lead to any more further violence. The city's seen enough pain. Here's to a better future.